What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we have a really exciting video because last week I participated in a Lightfall early access event where Bungie invited myself and some other creators out, showed us exclusive brand new gameplay, as well as divulged so much new information, and even had a question and answer period where we got even more information on top of that. So within this video, I'm gonna divulge as much information as I can to you guys, everything I learned about the upcoming Lightfall expansion as well as Season of Defiance. So we're talking new locations, new enemies, new weaponry, new loadout system, the Guardian rank system, and so much more. All while showing off exclusive never before seen Lightfall gameplay provided by Bungie. But guys, we are avoiding story spoilers, so don't worry about that. Alright, now let's get started with the new location within the Lightfall expansion, Neomuna. So this is the hidden Golden Age city on Neptune, and in terms of size, Bungie compared it with Europa, saying it's a classic 3-bubble location, so 3 different public event spaces, but they did also say that there will be a social space, somewhat similar to Sanctuary on the Moon, where you have a bunch of, Neptunian citizens roaming around and some vendors and so on. In fact, they actually did comment that, unlike a lot of other locations that have been decrepit for literally hundreds if not thousands of years since the collapse, with Neomuna, this invasion of the Cabal has just happened. So you do have citizens, and the city itself, they said, is a lot more lively than other locations. But on top of this kind of social area and the 3 public event spaces, there is going to be your classic private spaces, stuff like lost sectors. In fact, speaking of which, you may have seen during one of the Lightfall trailers that there's a section where Guardians are fighting through an actual arcade. Well, this is actually a lost sector present on Neomuna. Additionally, one of the things we noticed right away during the gameplay presentation was that the enemies of Neomuna had the red sword symbols, so they were overlight compared to the Guardian. Bungie said this was on purpose, so similar to how if you go into Heist Battleground activities, the enemies are always going to be a bit higher light than you to make them more challenging, that is also present on Neomuna. So, unlike most other, public event spaces where you can just sparrow right by groups of enemies, on Neomuna, you might actually have to fight it out. Additionally, during the presentation, we caught a glimpse of some sort of activity happening in the distance. Bungie commented that this was a new public activity present on Neomuna, and that it's going to be harder than your normal public event. They actually said you're supposed to play it with 6 people, and I was getting a ton of Escalation Protocol vibes, although they never directly made the connection, but they definitely were talking about how it's a pretty intense new public activity. And lastly, one of the new Cloud Strider characters, Nimbus, that you've been seeing in promotional material, he is going to be kind of the main vendor for Neomuna. Now, moving on from there, guys, let's talk Season of Defiance. So this is going to be happening and launching at the same time as Lightfall. Lightfall is going to take place on its own. It's a separate storyline on Neptune, Neomuna, etc. But Season of Defiance is going to be taking place on Earth, specifically the EDZ. Bungie commented that you're going to be working to defend Earth and the last city because the darkness has shown up directly on our doorstep. In fact, they said you're going to be working with Petra and Devrim, and during the Bungie Vidoc, you actually see gameplay of Devrim finally leaving that church tower. It's been a hot minute. And you also see some gameplay of one of the massive ziggurats that is in the Beyond location on Europa showing up in the EDZ. So again, the enemy is at your doorstep for Season of Defiance. Now moving on from there, let's talk about the other big feature coming with Lightfall, Strand. So one of the big takeaways from this early access event to me was when Bungie said that Strand is arriving to Destiny 2 as a much more complete package than Stasis did. If you remember back to Stasis, we got the subclasses, but that was pretty much it. There was only one Stasis weapon. It was the exotic heavy grenade launcher that was kind of just alright. It took the entire year before Bungie added more Stasis weapons with unique Stasis perks and so on. But Strand is going to be arriving with an accompaniment of weapons. They actually said that there should be around 4 to 5 legendary Strand weapons also arriving with Lightfall. And that is huge, obviously, for all of these synergistic interactions between the Strand subclasses and Strand weapons with unique Strand perks. And yes, there are going to be unique Strand perks. In fact, we actually saw one in the B-roll that we're going to be going over later in the video when we talk about weaponry. But continuing with Strand, another factor in it being a complete package is that you're going to face enemies with Strand shields. As you can see in the background gameplay, some of the Dark Cabal on Neomuna will have the green Strand shields that will take additional damage from Strand weapons and abilities. So again, that's something we definitely didn't have and arguably still don't with Stasis. Now what about unlocking your new Strand subclass? Well, Bungie actually specifically said it won't be an identical process to Beyond Light. In fact, it's being simplified significantly within Lightfall. You should get pretty much all of your Strand subclass up and running just by seemingly playing the campaign. It did seem like they didn't specifically say, but they seem to be hinting that playing through the campaign will be a key factor in unlocking pretty much all of that Strand subclass for whatever character you're playing it on. Again, this is significantly better than doing a bunch of side quests and waiting weeks to unlock it with Beyond Light. Now, additionally, during the Q&A, Bungie did specifically say that unlocking Strand was actually going to be closer to unlocking the light subclasses if you were a brand new player. In fact, they mentioned that when you unlock things like grenades, those are going to carry over between all three of your characters. Again, just like, the subclass 3.0 upgrades that happened this year. In fact, one of the interesting features we saw during the campaign mission showed to us was what they called a Strand Empowerment. It's essentially like a floating Strand weave in the world. You can go and interact with it. I believe it fully recharges your abilities and may also give you a better regeneration on top of that. But Bungie specifically said that these are going to be present kind of throughout the campaign, and it gives you access to the full breadth of your Strand subclass. So obviously, like, you're early in the campaign, you haven't unlocked all of your Strand subclass yet, but you interact with these Strand empowerments and it gives you, everything within your subclass. So you can go ham with all your aspects and fragments and all that stuff and, slaughter a bunch of enemies. But after that encounter is done, after that Strand empowerment wears off, you're actually going to have a period of exhaustion after using it where your ability regen is slowed because, you were so empowered, you spent all your mojo, I don't know exactly, but just keep that in mind. Those will show up during the Lightfall campaign. And also during the campaign, you're going to be fighting a lot of Cabal, but they're not your normal Cabal. They're the Shadow Legion. And Bungie said that they actually have powers granted to them by the Witness. So they have abilities that normal Cabal do not have, which will differentiate gameplay compared to stuff you've already been playing in Destiny 2. One of those things is like these weird darkness turrets almost, and shield generators. They carry them around on their back, and during gameplay you would see the Cabal get defeated, and then these shield generators, these objects, would drop down and deploy something over top of them. It wasn't actually divulged what these specifically do, but that's an example of something new that the Shadow Legion are doing. Now, the other new combatant you're going to have to watch out for in Lightfall is the Tormentor, and Bungie actually talked about these guys for quite a while and multiple times during the event. I think they're pretty proud of them, and some of the stuff they said, they said that they had to use them pretty sparingly throughout the campaign, but when they do arrive, it's a big deal. I think that these are actually going to be, pretty difficult to deal with in a lot of encounters, and when you do encounter one, apparently, you're actually going to be pretty freaked out when you do, because they are like pretty darn powerful and a definite challenge to overcome. Alright guys, moving on from there, let's talk about the new loadout system. So this is very, very cool. You're going to be able to designate builds as saved loadouts. You can have up to 10 per character, which is very awesome, and you can swap between them on the fly. This is something they confirmed during the Q&A, unlike a loadout manager right now like Destiny Item Manager, where you have to swap in orbit. With the in-game loadouts, you can literally swap mid-activity, obviously with the exception being with something like, Grandmaster Nightfalls that have locked loadouts. So literally you can go in with an ad-clearing build and just before, the boss of the strike or whatever, switch to your DPS build on the fly in-game and then, fight with it, which is super sweet. But a big question about these in-game loadouts is how do they interact with your vault? Well, Bungie actually confirmed this. So if you have a loadout that has certain items in your vault, it will actually withdraw those items from your vault and equip them as long as you have the inventory space. So like if you have completely full kinetic weapons and you're trying to switch to a loadout that has a kinetic in your vault, it will give you an error message saying, hey, you need to make space for it to withdraw this item, right? And it can't put items like back into your vault by switching between your loadouts. And that is definitely an advantage that something like DIM, Destiny Item Manager, does have the ability to really easily put stuff back into your vault to kind of create space. But on top of this loadout system, Bungie was also very excited to show off the mod manager. So this is going to be like a special screen that you can tab to that is going to show all of the different mods on your character at once. And they said it's going to be a very easy way to show off builds. Certainly as someone who makes build videos, I'm very excited for this because, right now I have to go over each individual piece of armor and switch between them. But now I can just go to the mod manager screen and then just show off all the mods very easily. It also lets you kind of share one singular image and then people can, if they know the symbols for the mods, know what the build is, somewhat similar to like how you can share the appearance screen and people know, oh, that's the shader he's using, that's the different armor sets he's using to get this look. It's going to work the same way but for builds. And there's also a mod manager for weaponry showing all the different weapons you have equipped, all their different perks and origin traits and all that stuff and mods on them, catalysts, etc. And again, a very easy way to show what you have equipped. Now, speaking of mods, I actually asked Bungie if they plan on adding more armor mods in the future, and they did say it's definitely something they're thinking about, but they mainly answered to that the seasonal artifacts are going to provide a lot of interesting new mods to differentiate gameplay. I really hope that they don't go to all this trouble to redesign the mod system, the build crafting system, and then they never spice it up by adding new armor mods. Please, Bungie, new armor mods are just as important when it comes to changing up the gameplay and the meta as new weaponry. But moving on, another piece of mod information, Artifice Armor is getting changed. It will not have an additional mod slot. It will instead have a special mod slot where you can put on a mod that gives you +3 of a certain stat. So a +3 strength mod, +3 resilience mod, etc. Now, this mod will cost 0 energy, so it's pure upside. Very important information. But guys, in the B-roll Bungie provided, they go over some loadouts and they actually kind of haphazardly scroll over a bunch of different mods. Let's go over all of them. So this mod that actually isn't even named yet came up and it's going to give you armor charge for picking up an orb of power. And if you do get armor charge, you will have bonus strength, as you can see. Now, moving on from there, another one was unflinching kinetic aim. So this is a change that they're making. There's not going to be necessarily unflinching sniper rifle aim. It's just the entire weapon category. In this example, all kinetic weapons. Then we have over here, charged up. Increases the maximum number of stacks of armor charges you can carry by 1. So there you go. Then moving on from there, we see with this leg armor here, we have a mod equipped, and we actually see that mod right here, Font of Agility. So you pick up an Orb of Power, you gain armor charge, and similar to the strength one, you're going to gain bonus mobility while you have an armor charge. So remember guys, Bungie is massively simplifying the mod system within Lightfall. There's no more Charge with Light, Elemental Wells, or Warmind cells. Now, you get Orbs of Power, you gain Armor Charge. You're just either charged or you're not, and you gain different benefits depending on if you are. Another example here of a mod, Better Already. Your health regenerates when you pick up an Orb of Power. That's already in the game. Then we have Stacks on Stacks being present here. Pick up an Orb of Power and you gain an additional stack of armor charge. Pairs pretty well with Charged Up that we just saw. Then another one here, Void Weapon Surge. So your void weapons gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge, and your armor charge now decays over time. A lot of mods will make your armor charge decay, it appears. But this is going to be essentially replacing like Font of Might. You have these weapon surges depending on the different element. And we also have this screenshot here of Bungie showing off the inner workings of a certain loadout, and as you can see, we have a lot of different mod names present in the right hand corner. Kinetic Targeting, Kinetic Siphon. We have Special Ammo Scout, which may be replacing Ammo Finders. That's an interesting one. We have Void Weapon Surge again, a couple of Invigorations. Melee Kickstart is present here, so likely the Kickstart mods are back. We have a Utility Kickstart as well. 1-2 Finisher is present. Proximity Ward, an interesting one, is here. Font of Vigor is also present. But guys, moving on from armor, let's talk weaponry. And Bungie did scroll over a couple of brand new weapons within the gameplay. So the first one here is the Circular Logic Legendary Machine Gun. And guys, like I said, there's going to be some legendary Strand weapons. This, as you can see, is one of them. So this has Offhand Strike. Trash perk still probably, but because it's Strand, as you can see, it has a brand new Strand perk called Hatchling. And I would imagine, guys, we know about the Threadlings, right? An element of Strand that the Warlock specializes in. I would not be surprised if the Hatchling perk, it sounds like it spawns Threadlings probably on a kill, which could be very exciting. But the origin trait is called Nanotech Tracer Rockets. Now, to me, guys, that sounds very similar to the exotic perk of the Quicksilver Storm exotic auto rifle, which is like a Lightfall weapon. That is going to shoot out rocket tracers as you damage enemies. Again, this sounds extremely similar, so that is pretty exciting. It could be like an identical effect, just spawning a lot more infrequently compared to the actual exotic. But we also see in this screenshot some more new weapons present in the power weapon slot. We see two different symbols. Obviously the triangle is going to be the Lightfall symbol, and then the other symbol is likely the new Season of Defiance symbol. So we have the machine gun and what looks to be a heavy grenade launcher as new Lightfall weapons, and then we have another heavy grenade launcher and a sword present as Season of Defiance weapons. And notably, the Lightfall heavy grenade launcher has the red border deep sight around it. Bungie did say that deep sight would only spawn for craftable weapons, so it does appear that the new Lightfall weapons are going to be craftable. But next up, we have this screenshot here showcasing another brand new Lightfall gun, the Basso Ostanato, and this is a Void legendary shotgun. It has a brand new, never before seen perk, Envious Assassin, and then it has another new perk, Destabilizing Rounds. Now, to me, guys, destabilizing rounds on a Void weapon, does that sound like a perk that will grant volatile rounds to anyone else? Because it certainly does to me, and if it does, that is super, super exciting. Now, on top of that, guys, we see some more weapons present here. We see what appears to be a fusion rifle and a pulse rifle as new Lightfall weapons, and then a special grenade launcher and another fusion rifle present as Season of Defiance weapons. And we actually see with the Season of Defiance fusion rifle, we actually have like the Queensguard logo on it. So definitely going to be a huge interaction there with Season of Defiance and Morozov, Petra, and the Queensguard. And then we get one last look at new weapons when the kinetic slot is scrolled over. As you can see here, guys, the Season of Defiance weapons include a new kinetic bow, as well as what appears to be a kinetic auto rifle. And then the Lightfall weapons in this slot include a sniper rifle, a hand cannon, and an SMG. And during the B-roll gameplay, both the hand cannon and the SMG were Strand, so again, Strand weapons are going to be present similar to Stasis in that kinetic slot. But guys, moving on from there, let's talk about Guardian ranks. This is a huge change coming to the game with Lightfall. So, the actual number beside your name now is not going to be your seasonal rank. It's now just going to be your Guardian rank. And it appears that the Guardian ranks, they go from 0 to 6 and then 7 to 11. And the reason I make that distinction is that one of the things we learned is that with Guardian ranks, I think it's 1 to 6 is universal. If you just start the game, you're going to start at level 1, and to go from one rank to the next, it's going to direct you to do certain things. In the beginning, it's going to be play some strikes, then play some crucible, and then you do bigger and more complicated things. If you are a veteran player, you should probably start out at rank 6. But then ranks 7 to 11, I believe, are temporary. So just like how your seasonal rank is temporary, your Guardian rank is going to be, at least the top half of it, is going to be temporary. So it's going to reset every season because those later Guardian ranks, like getting up to rank 10, 11, are going to ask you, Bungie actually specifically mentioned, to do things like the new dungeon, or, you know, if there's a new raid perhaps, you have to go and do that to get to rank 11. One of the other things they mentioned is that one of the ranks, I think rank 10, they said, is actually going to have like a power level requirement. You have to reach a certain power level. So if you see someone rank 10, you know, oh, they're raid ready. Like, they are the power level required to do the raid. So these Guardian ranks are going to be a big indication of what you've done for that season and where you are at with the current content in the game. And then lastly, guys, we also have this brand new commendation system, and we actually see an example of it right here within some gameplay. So this person goes and commends this player for being selfless, and then you can see, like, it seems like every single player got a different commendation after that. You can clearly see they played Vow of the Disciple up there, so like it's going to have this summary screen and let you commend certain players. If you actually look at the armor sets on the far right, those are a little saucy for sure, and that could be some brand new armor that we're getting here. Or at least I don't recognize it from the game right now. Maybe I'm wrong. But guys, again, that is going to bring an end to this video. I hope you enjoyed, learned something new. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.